let's dive into a legal story that is just, well, wild. It starts out super small, a simple dispute between a property owner and a city. But it spirals into this massive federal lawsuit that's filled with accusations of a sprawling criminal conspiracy. Seriously, this is a David versus Goliath story, and we're going to break it all down based on the actual court filings. Believe it or not, this entire complex saga kicks off with this number, $3,238.29. That's how much the city of Phoenix charged someone in an abatement lien, basically a bill for cleaning up their property. Now, usually that gets paid and it's over, but not this time, not even close. Yeah, because it turns out a U.S. District Court later took a look at this and issued an order saying that this seemingly small lien was in fact totally groundless and invalid. The court found there was no law, no prior judgment, nothing that authorized it. So right from the get-go, the very foundation of this whole thing was basically a sham. And it didn't even stop there. The same court order that wiped out the lien also made the city pay the plaintiff this amount, $9,714.87. If you do the math, that's exactly 3 times the original lien. The court actually cited Arizona's racketeering laws, which allow for what's called treble damages, basically triple the penalty. So that brings us to the big question, right? How on earth does a little $3,000 property dispute in a city explode into a federal case where a judge is awarding damages for racketeering? To figure that out, we have to dig into the plaintiff's side of the story, as they laid it out in their official complaint. Okay, so, according to the lawsuit, that lien, it wasn't just some simple mistake or a clerical error. The plaintiffs claim it was just the first shot in a much bigger, coordinated campaign of harassment and intimidation, one that went on for years and involved some really disturbing stuff. For instance, the court filings allege that this campaign against them actually included arson. We're talking about fires being deliberately set at their properties out in Mojave County. And the plaintiffs claim this was all done to destroy evidence, tank their property values, and just put them under incredible stress. The filings also lay out a whole campaign of what they call extortion. This supposedly includes a bogus water bill from the city of Phoenix for over $35,000. But even more critically, they say their water was shut off and just kept off for more than 7 years. They argue that this was basically a constructive eviction, making it impossible to even live there. And this is where the allegations get incredibly personal and frankly pretty scary. The complaint claims that one plaintiff's private, confidential, protected health information, your PHI, was stolen directly from a sealed court file. And the alleged reason? To use this deeply personal medical info as a weapon for intimidation and to get leverage over them. To give you a feel for the kind of threatening vibe they're describing, the court filings point to this quote. This was allegedly said by the people who were delivering a violation notice from the city. I mean, a statement like that completely changes a routine city action into something that sounds a lot more like a direct, personal threat. Okay, so you have avoided lien, you've got arson, extortion, stolen medical records. On the surface, these might seem like separate, awful things, but the plaintiffs argue that they are all deeply connected. So the question is, how? So how do the plaintiffs connect all of these dots? Well, their big legal theory is that these weren't random acts at all, but the coordinated work of a single criminal enterprise. And that powerful allegation is the absolute bedrock of their federal RICO lawsuit. Right, so the lawsuit is filed under the RICO Act. That's the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. You've probably heard of it used against the mob. And the whole case really hangs on this legal idea of an enterprise. They're not just suing a bunch of different people for different things. They're claiming all the defendants actually formed a team, an association in fact, with one common goal, to take their property away through a pattern of criminal behavior. And here's how they claim it was structured. The complaint describes this enterprise as having 2 arms. First, the Maricopa arm, which they say was led by the city of Phoenix and its officials, handling things like the fraudulent liens and cutting off the water. Then there was the Mojave arm, allegedly run by private individuals, which took care of the arson and extortion on other properties. They claim these 2 groups were working together the whole time. All right, now we get to what is maybe the most shocking claim in the entire lawsuit. The plaintiffs argue that this conspiracy wasn't just targeting them, it was targeting the justice system itself. So the heart of this argument is that when they had their previous cases dismissed by the courts, it wasn't because they actually lost fair and square. No, they alleged that those dismissals were actually caused by the enterprise through fraud. To really get this, we have to look at this legal idea called extrinsic fraud. It's a huge part of their appeal. You see, losing a case is one thing, right? The lawyers argue, a judge listens, and makes a call based on the evidence. But extrinsic fraud is totally different. It's when some kind of deception happens outside the actual courtroom that makes a fair trial impossible. Think about things like hiding evidence or threatening witnesses. The plaintiffs are claiming that's what happened to them.
So their argument boils down to this. Those prior court dismissals weren't just losses. They were actually criminal acts, what the law calls predicate acts, that helped the RICO conspiracy move forward. They're claiming the enterprise manipulated the whole judicial process to get their cases tossed out, which was a way of obstructing justice and protecting themselves.
And that brings us to where things are right now. After the district court dismissed their latest RICO case, the plaintiffs didn't back down. They appealed, which sends this unbelievably complex legal fight up to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit. So here's a quick look at the recent timeline. The case gets dismissed back in August. Then in September, they file their notice of appeal. But then in October, and this is a really interesting twist, the district judge issues that provisional order we talked about, the one declaring the lien void while the appeal is happening. And now oral arguments are officially on the schedule. So with all these tangled arguments and incredible accusations flying around, what is the core legal question that the judges at the Ninth Circuit have to sort through and decide? Ultimately, it really boils down to this. On one side, the defendants are saying, look, these people are just trying to use federal court to refight old state cases they already lost. You can't do that. But on the other side, the plaintiffs are arguing, no, this is a brand new, separate federal case. Our injury wasn't just losing those old cases. Our injury was the entire fraudulent conspiracy that corrupted the whole process. And that really leaves us with the final, huge question that hangs over this entire case, doesn't it? In the eyes of the law, where do you draw the line between a really aggressive, maybe even ugly legal dispute and a full-blown criminal conspiracy? The Ninth Circuit's answer to that is going to decide everything.